It was an ordinary Saturday afternoon at Riverview Mall. Crowds of shoppers bustled from store to store, chatting, browsing, and enjoying their weekend. In the middle of the food court, 72-year-old Gloria King was taking a break from her errands, sipping her tea and watching people pass by with a gentle smile. Gloria, a retired school teacher, was known in her neighborhood for her warm heart and quiet strength. She had raised two children on her own after her husband passed away unexpectedly years ago. Her son, Michael, had grown up to become a well-respected attorney, while her daughter, Lillian, was a dedicated nurse. Gloria had instilled in them values of compassion, dignity, and resilience. She was a proud woman who had overcome adversity, and nothing had ever broken her spirit. As Gloria finished her tea, she noticed a security guard approaching her with a stern expression. She didn't recognize him, but there was a gleam in his eye that made her uneasy. The guard was tall with a muscular build and a smug grin that seemed out of place. Gloria watched him approach, sensing trouble. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me," he demanded, his tone filled with impatience. "Is there a problem?" Gloria asked, surprised by his aggressive demeanor. "We've had reports of suspicious activity, and you match the description. Now let's not make a scene," he sneered. Gloria looked around, startled. "I've just been sitting here drinking my tea. I'm not sure how I could be considered suspicious." But the officer, Officer Turner, wasn't interested in explanations. He grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her to her feet. "Let's go," he said, ignoring her protests. Gloria winced, pain shooting up her arm as he twisted it behind her back. The other shoppers began to notice, their conversations fading into shocked silence. Some took out their phones, filming the incident. Others watched in horror as the elderly woman struggled in the officer's grip. "Please," Gloria begged, her voice trembling. "You're hurting me. I haven't done anything wrong." But Officer Turner only tightened his grip, his face twisting into a sneer. "You people are always causing trouble. I'm not going to let you get away with it this time." Gloria's eyes filled with tears. She could feel the humiliation and anger building up inside her, but she refused to let him see her break. She thought of Michael and Lillian, of all the lessons she had taught them about standing up for what was right. She knew she had to hold on, to be strong, even in this terrible moment. Suddenly, without warning, Officer Turner raised his hand and struck her across the face. The crowd gasped as Gloria staggered backward, clutching her cheek. She could feel the sting of the blow, the heat of the blood rushing to the surface. But more than the physical pain, she felt the deep, aching hurt of being treated as less than human. Just then, a voice rang out from across the food court. "Get your hands off her, now!" The crowd parted, revealing Michael, who had arrived just in time to witness the assault. He was tall and imposing, with an air of quiet authority that commanded respect. His face was a mask of fury as he strode forward, his eyes locked on Officer Turner. The officer's face turned pale as he realized who he was dealing with. He had heard of Michael King, the attorney who had taken on some of the city's toughest cases, known for his relentless pursuit of justice. Michael's reputation preceded him, and Officer Turner knew he was in serious trouble. Michael reached his mother's side, gently placing his arm around her shoulders. "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked, his voice soft and full of concern. Gloria nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm fine, Michael. Just a little shaken up." Michael turned back to Officer Turner, his eyes blazing with anger. "You have no right to lay a hand on my mother. I demand to know why you felt the need to assault an elderly woman in a public place." Officer Turner stammered, struggling to come up with an explanation. I thought she was causing a disturbance. I was just doing my job." "Your job," Michael spat, "your job is to protect and serve, not to bully and assault innocent people. You've crossed a line, and you're going to be held accountable." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, their phones still recording the incident. They could see the truth in Michael's words, and they were outraged by the injustice they had witnessed. Some of them began to step forward, voicing their support for Gloria and condemning Officer Turner's actions. "You're going to regret this," Michael said, his voice cold and steady. "I'm filing a complaint with the department, and I will personally see to it that you are held responsible for your actions." Officer Turner, realizing he was in over his head, tried to backpedal. "Listen, man, I was just doing my job. There's no need to make a big deal out of this." Michael shook his head, a look of disgust on his face. You don't get to decide what's a big deal and what's not. You've traumatized my mother, and you've shown the world the kind of person you really are." He turned to the crowd, raising his voice. "Thank you all for standing with us today. This is the reality that so many people face every day, simply because of the color of their skin. It's time for us to stand up against this kind of hatred and make it clear that we will not tolerate it any longer." The crowd erupted into applause, their voices ringing out in support of Michael and Gloria. They knew that they had witnessed something powerful, something that would resonate far beyond the walls of the mall. Officer Turner, his face flushed with embarrassment, slinked away. Knowing that he had been exposed, he could feel the weight of the crowd's judgment pressing down on him, and he knew that he would never forget this day. As Gloria and Michael walked out of the mall together, she felt a sense of pride swelling in her chest. She had raised a son who was willing to stand up for what was right, who refused to back down in the face of injustice. And in that moment, she knew that no amount of hatred or prejudice could ever take that away from her. She looked up at Michael, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, my son," she whispered. "You've given me more strength than I could ever have imagined." Michael smiled, pulling her into a gentle embrace. "It's all because of you, Mom. You taught me to be strong, to fight for what's right. I'm just doing what you raised me to do." Together, they walked out of the mall, their heads held high, knowing that they had made a difference. And as they stepped into the sunlight, they could feel the weight of the world lifting, replaced by the unbreakable bond of love and resilience that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead.